See, I think her side arm is like... I'll tell you what I'll tell you.
There's another one there now. Just a smaller gap now.
Today is the annual weigh-in at London Zoo. Now, the reality is we actually weigh the animals almost every single day, but today is a slightly more formalised process. Animals across over 400 species as we can, and log everything onto an international database called ZIMS, the Zoological Information Management System. We then share that information with other zoos globally and with other conservation organisations. It's really important for us to monitor the weights of all our animals. For example, just their general health and well-being is evident through their weight. We might have a pregnant animal that we want to be gaining weight through the process of her pregnancy, a juvenile that we want to be sure is growing at the right pace, and indeed a geriatric animal towards the latter part of its life that we want to make sure is maintaining weight as much as possible. So lots of reasons for us to do it, but then also critically as a conservation organisation we can share that data with so many of our staff overseas working on some critically endangered projects for critically endangered species. They're able to learn so much from that data that we gather here as a scientific organisation and make sure that we do everything we can to protect both those habitats and also the wild cousins of the animals that you see here at the zoo. The biggest animal will be, yet again, she always wins, it's Molly the giraffe, so she'll be weighing in at about 700 kilos. Now at 4 metres, it's not too hard to reach that huge weight. And then straight behind her will be Genghis and Naomi, our two Bactrian camels. They'll both be at around the 650 to 680 kilo mark, depending on how much hay they've eaten in the last week. And we then go all the way down to the other end of the spectrum. So a leafcutter ant, for example, weighs just 5 milligrams. But the reality is we just don't have the time to count them all, so we cheat. And we'll be counting a colony of leafcutter ants. The trickiest year on year, always the same, it's the squirrel monkeys. They're as cheeky as all the other monkeys, but with the squirrel monkeys, they're always ahead of us. They realise that there's a tasty treat. So there's been a lot of queue barging, a lot of attempts to get a double weigh-in and a double treat, but the keepers are doing an amazing job, and they will, as always, get a weight for every single squirrel monkey by the end of today. They do a really good job. They're really patient. They're incredibly professional. And the reality is the monkeys, as well as all the animals involved in the weigh-in today, have a great time because everyone gets a small treat, a healthy treat, but it's really nice for the animals and a great opportunity for others to see the same.
I think it will be Amara, our lovely hippo next, definitely. I think she might weigh a little bit more.
Probably the easiest animal to weigh are the gorillas because they're incredibly intelligent. They know exactly what we need them to do, and we weigh them every single day as a result. They've got giant, bespoke gorilla-sized weigh scales, and we've got thousands of data points of gorilla weights. But again, those data we use to inform our decisions when we're looking at our conservation projects around great apes and so many other species. So again, an incredibly important link to the zoos and to conservation.
Absolutely not. They love it. So they're enjoying. They'll definitely be enjoying it.
Our new capybara is definitely stealing the show and an absolute showstopper, and visitors love them. They're quite big as the world's largest rodent. So the female weighed in at 38 kilos. And the male at 48 kilos, so quite big, and we'd expect that weight. And the reality is all of the weights that we're getting are to be expected because we manage the diets so carefully, so scientifically. Everything is fed here to the gram. All diets are prepared to the gram, and diets are so healthy and so balanced that we tend to never really get any particular surprises when it comes to weight. But the beauty is if we did ever get a surprise, we've got the veterinary hospital here on site, and we're able to react immediately and use those weights, use that data to be reactive and treat the animals if we feel we need to. for some animals it's easier to use a bit of a prop, and so for example with the katydid, a bit hard to get onto the scales, a lot of movement there, so we just use a simple bowl and they'll sit inside the bowl. Sometimes in the case of the Galapagos tortoises, they're so big it's quite difficult to get them on the scale, so we've got bespoke wooden boards that they'll go on to. Keepers have done some amazing training getting them to do that. So those small changes that we make, often with just props that we've got around the zoo, enables us to weigh every single animal. The keepers have always got different tricks up their sleeves and they always get the weight.
The other lady will go down here to distract her.
Jelajahi cara baru mendapatkan informasi. Download MetroTV Extend sekarang.